This week, I'm attending AEW Dynamite, Rampage, Revolution, and more. I'm Angela, you're watching Hobby Night. Now let's get to it. I'm so excited. It's been a while since we've actually been to the Cow Palace for a pro wrestling show. It's actually a historical space for this, but the last time we were here was like 2019 for a New Japan Pro Wrestling show. We actually did get to see a bunch of AEW superstars at that show prior to them actually being part of AEW, because this is before the company was around, but it was actually really, really cool. So to come back and actually see them here officially as part of AEW, it's one of the main reasons we had to come to this show, other than the fact that like it's the first time they've come to SF ever. So I'm so hyped. Let's go get in line and get inside. All right, let's go ahead and begin with Wednesday night, which actually included two shows. Not only did I get to watch AEW Dynamite, but we also got to see the recording for AEW Dark Elevation. And I want to start by talking about a couple of the matches that I was able to catch for Elevation. Now, I didn't get to see all of the matches because I was waiting in an exceptionally long line to both get merch and some food, which is not that big of a deal, but I did catch two matches that I was most excited to see from this particular card. The first one is the Ring of Honor's Women's Champion, Athena versus Brooke Havoc. I think both of these women are brilliant. Athena especially. Brooke is also great, but I absolutely adore Athena. If you are unfamiliar with her, she's amazing. She's into D&D. She's a phenomenal wrestler. I remember when she debuted in NXT as Ember Moon, and I thought she was just brilliant, and I've continued to think that ever since. So getting to see her in person, always thrilling. The other match that I was really eager to see and very excited for the pop that happened for one of the participants in it was Evil Uno versus Lee Johnson. Now, I am a big fan of both of these men, but in particular, Evil Uno. Join Dark Order. Dark Order are my boys. I have loved Uno and Stu Grayson ever since they first joined the company, and I'm really sad that Stu's not with the company anymore, but I am thrilled that Uno's around, and he's been on such a streak right now. He is so over, because if you missed it, he had a big match with Jon Moxley, got super bloodied, did not win that match, but it put him over like no other. And since then, he's won both of his matches, which I think is really cool. And I just think he's got a bit more respect now. He's going a little bit harder, I think, and he's really embracing the evil side of his name, which just makes me so happy. Now let's go ahead and talk about AEW Dynamite, because that was the main event we were here to see. And honestly, you guys, it was an absolutely killer show. We opened up the program with a match between Orange Cassidy and Big Bill. I remember when Big Bill was with Enzo Amore as Big Cass in NXT and the swapped chants, and we actually did get a couple of them in the crowd going, which was honestly a little bit funny. I don't know if he appreciates that or not, but I at least did, because I remember chanting that at NXT when I used to see them live. So that was really cool to see. And Orange Cassidy, as always, is just brilliant. He's a great way to open the show, and I think that's why Tony Khan tends to do it as often as he does. We also got a couple of great matches between Matt and Hook, which was Matt Hardy, that is, and Hook. Love both of them. Hook is so over, it's ridiculous. And every time Taz talks about him on commentary, which unfortunately we did not get to hear because you don't get to hear the commentary when you're at a live show, but when he does talk about him, you can always just hear the parental proudness in his voice, and I love it. It's so charming and it's so cute, and I absolutely adore it. Now, one of the other very exciting matches that I was really looking forward to at Dynamite specifically was Riho versus Toni Storm. Riho is an amazing wrestler, and I cannot, how she doesn't get injured more, because she just floats across the matches and in the ring and everything because of how lightweight she is. I don't know, but kudos to her, because she's stunning. And then Toni Storm, I mean, I don't even really feel like I have to say much about Toni Storm other than she's brilliant. And then Saraya was with her as well, and she was getting the crowd so worked up. It was really good. Now, the big thing that I was looking forward to most at AEW Dynamite is probably going to come as no surprise to anybody, considering one of the participants was a local from my area. It is the ladder match that happened at AEW Dynamite, and oh my god, it was so good. There were so many ridiculous spots. Okay, this match included quite a number of people who I am a huge fan of. There was Konosuke in there. We also had Ortiz, as well as Action Andrade. We had Sammy Guevara, who I absolutely love. His vlog is brilliant, and I love seeing that boy live. I've got to see him live a couple of times, but he likes to do ridiculous stunts off the top of high things, and wouldn't you know, we were in a ladder match, so there were plenty of high things for him to jump off of, and he did a number of times, making you very, very scared for him. Honestly, but so did everybody. Everybody was flying off ladders in this. Everybody was jumping off of things, throwing themselves around, but we didn't finish covering who all was in the match. We also had Eddie Kingston, and of course, and I don't know if I've said this already, and I'm gonna say it again, Will Hobbs, my boy, Will Hobbs. He is a local from Oakland, and I love this man. He's so good. He is really good in the ring. I think he still needs to work a little bit on his promo work. I don't know if he's quite fully nailed his promo work. However, I think he deserves the win that he got here at AEW Dynamite, and seeing him climb to the top of that broken ladder as a couple of refs had to hold it in place because he barreled into it just before to it was amazing. He climbed up to the very top, stood on the very topmost part like you're not supposed to on a ladder, grabbed that giant golden Sonic ring, and then won the match. And then we all stood there and watched him and went, I hope he can get down okay, because he's holding the ring. I don't think he really wants to let it down because he just won it. You know, it's the thing he wants to hold up, but he's very unstable on top of a broken ladder. Thankfully, he jumped himself down brilliantly and then got to the floor and then was able to hurrah all the way, really soak in his win. But oh my god, what an absolutely just stunning match. We also, at this, got the Casino Tag Team Battle Royale, which just had a buttload of people in it. So many tag teams, including the Lucha Brothers, Top Flight, Blackpool Combat Club, so many Aussie Open, so many others. Best Friend, actually no, the Best Friends didn't end up being in it because Orange Cassidy and Danhausen ended up taking their place, which I think the crowd was really thrilled to see, actually. People absolutely love Danhausen, so anytime he gets to come back out is great. I felt a little bad for Orange Cassidy having to wrestle twice, actually 3 times that night, because he also did I think he did a Dark Elevation match as well, so the poor man came out a number of times that evening, but good lord, he never stopped, and it was just an absolutely brilliant show. The one last thing that I guess I want to throw out there to talk about was Chris Jericho versus Peter Avalon. I am so glad Peter Avalon is back. I miss the Librarians so much from being the Elite, and I wish they were still doing that gimmick. I know they're not. I know Leva and Peter Avalon have moved on past that, but god damn, it was so good, and this was just a great way to start a week of wrestling. Now let's talk about AEW Rampage.
Feed me, Angela.
I will.
Feed me.
I'm going to. We're going to get food, and then we're going to AEW Rampage. Yeah. We're back! We're back at the Cow Palace, and this time we're here for AEW Rampage. It's gonna be a little bit of a shorter show, but I expect it to be just as amazing. Let's go ahead and get in line for Rampage. Because it's cold and I would love to get inside, but let's go. Also, if you see me in the crowd, I'll be wearing this purple jacket, so look for me.
We're at the next show. It's AEW Rampage as well as AEW Dark. And I want to start by talking about Dark first because there were a couple highlights for me at this particular show. One, Lance Archer returned. Well, not returned, he's been around. But with him was the returning Jake the Snake Roberts. And I'm happy to see that he is healthier, that he is back. I really actually think they're a great combo of people. Like, I think Jake being his mouthpiece as well as just being his manager is absolutely brilliant. And Lance Archer is always really cool to see because he just comes in and absolutely wrecks face. That is his gimmick, and I absolutely love it. On top of this, we got to see a variety of other things, including Konosuke Takahashi defeating the absolutely brilliant Jake Cartwheel. This is a man who I want to see more of in AEW or just pro wrestling in general. Obviously, Jake has a background in gymnastics because of the number of cartwheels and backflips and springs off of the board and just flippy shit that he was doing in the ring. And frankly, I think it was amazing. Like, his energy and just like, oh my God, it was so good. I can't even describe it properly. This was just such a good match and the entire crowd got into it, which is the best thing about pro wrestling. I love when a match is so good that the wrestlers are doing such an excellent job at performing and putting on a show that the entire crowd is just like getting into chants, really getting into what's going on in the ring. And it's so cool to see. And this happened during the Konosuke Jake Cartwheel match because they just tore the house down. It was amazing. We also got to see Big Bill versus Orange Cassidy, and I am a big fan of Big Bill. I loved him as Big Cass with Enzo Amore and NXT. I went to several NXT house shows that did come to the Bay Area, and that was around the time when Enzo and Big Cass were still with them. And it was always really cool because we always got like really loud soft chants happening, and at this crowd, we got one going. Not me specifically, but the crowd, I think, remembered. I think a lot of the people who were here probably would have been people that may have been at that NXT show because I don't know how big the wrestling community is in the Bay Area. But I think it's relatively tight-knit, and I think a lot of people go to the same show. So it was just really, really cool to see lots of great stuff at Dark. One of the other main big events for me, and this was really cool because it ties into something that's going to happen later on, is I got to see Willow Nightingale live. I've never seen her live before, but as soon as she appeared on AEW, and because I've never really watched too much of Ring of Honor, but as soon as she appeared, and I was like, oh my God, this woman is brilliant. I love her energy. She has this happy, nihilistic like vibe to her, which I think is just so fun. And honestly, she is amazing. So it was a really, really good show. Now let's actually get into Rampage, however, because that was the main thing that we were here to see. Now, AEW Rampage was just, if I had to compare Dynamite and Rampage, like these two live shows to each other, to me, Rampage was, in my opinion, the actual better show. I felt like it was what an OG AEW show felt like. It focused really heavily on a lot of the original talent that had signed with AEW, which I absolutely just loved. In fact, in particular, it was brilliant to be able to see Alex Reynolds, and I almost said Ryan Reynolds, sorry, Alex Reynolds and John Silver versus Top Flight, which both are really, really good tag teams. Again, join Dark Order. I love them. Getting to see them live is always, always good. Then we got an excellent match between Claudio and Wheeler Yuta versus the Aussie Open, who had been in the tag team match on Dynamite the night before and really had gone over the crowd. So everybody was really hyped to see them back. And it was just a brilliant match. Everybody was booing Blackpool Combat Club really heavily and really like over for Aussie Open, which was really cool to see. In addition to that, there was just so many good things. Like, I'm looking through my notes here because we actually got, I need to talk about the Joshi. I need to talk about Emi Sakura versus Riho. Now, obviously at Dynamite, I got to see Riho, but I also got to see, I didn't get to see Emmy. She was at that show, but I unfortunately missed her match while I was waiting in line. So I got to see her here, and I love her gimmick. She is a brilliant woman, and I actually got to meet her at the AEW Heels event, which I'll be talking about in a little bit. I'll go into more detail on that, but she was just so cool. So just like that match, great, absolutely loved it. But we got a match between, it was Dustin Rhodes teaming with Keith Lee versus Swerve Strickland and Parker Bordeaux. Parker Bordeaux was one of the new wrestlers that just sort of premiered. I think his debut was a little lackluster, but I thought he did a really good job in this particular match, and I absolutely love seeing Dustin Rhodes and Keith Lee absolutely kicking ass. I love both these men. Keith Lee, excellent pro wrestler, but Dustin Rhodes is really what I want to talk about because I've never seen him live. I've seen him in person. I've seen him at like an NXT Access event before. I think I saw him at the Access event at WrestleMania when I went to a WrestleMania once, but I've not actually seen him perform much live. And I really love his character work. Like, the man has had some absolutely bizarre characters out there. Just look at anything he's done with the Gold Dust character, but then he also has these like really badass moments, these really goofy moments, and I think that just really drew me to him, and he's turned into one of my all-time favorites. And honestly, I don't know how much more he's actually going to be wrestling, so this may have been my last opportunity to see him live, and I'm so grateful that I was able to. And the crowd was so respectful to him. I think he really enjoyed the show, at least the way that he was acting afterwards. It was just so good to see. AEW Rampage was amazing, like absolutely just amazing. And I think outside of the pay-per-view, definitely my favorite between Dynamite and Rampage. It was just so good.
I am very excited because I am on my way to my first in-person Heels event for AEW, and it should be amazing. Hopefully I'll be able to get footage for you guys, but let's check it out.
Okay, next up, I want to talk about an event that I didn't do a whole lot of filming at because I ultimately decided it may not have been the best call, but I wanted to talk about it as something that I did because I think it's a really cool community. I am part of the AEW Heels community, which is a women's focused group that is run by Aubrey, Amanda, as well as Leva Bates. And I think they do such a good job with this. This was a casual meetup between the Heels members that we got to go to for free because we were part of the subscription to be part of the membership in the first place. And I got to meet a bunch of the AEW Heels women, as well as we got to pop in from Orange Cassidy, which was really, really cool to see. But the best part about this particular event was just how chill it was. It was just us meeting up and being able to talk with everybody. And not only did I get to talk spreadsheets with Aubrey Edwards, the most brilliant ref I know, I also got to meet Emi Sakura, which I kind of had mentioned a little bit during my Dynamite review. She is brilliant, and I got to share some of my hair tips with her because she was really interested in how purple and blue my hair was. And I don't know, I thought that was really, really cool. I would imagine pro wrestlers would have like their hair dye and all of that kind of stuff on lock and like dialed in because they're constantly doing colors and fun things with their hair and it's always looking fresh and perfect. So the fact that like she was really into like my routine and everything blew me away. I was super, super flattered by that. And I actually got a lot of compliments from a lot of the different women at this event, both of the fans that were there to see it, as well as the pro wrestlers. And I don't know, I had to talk about how cool that was because it just made me feel really, really cool. So obviously, Aubrey, we got to meet Emi, we got to meet Dasha. Dasha is brilliant. She is the announcer and her outfits are stunning. She showed me pictures of her closet and I am so jealous. Good Lord, does this woman have a massive collection of stunning and wild looking clothes, and I'm so jealous. I also got to meet Willow Nightingale. And as I mentioned, this woman is new to my life, but I think she is so cool and she was so nice. I spent actually the majority of my time chatting with her, so thank you so much, Willow, for chatting with me so much. And she just kept the conversation going. She had questions, she allowed us to ask questions. Everybody was super kind about us taking photos and everything, so that was it just made the whole experience amazing. I also, of course, got to meet Liba. I actually met her at both Dynamite and Rampage because she was manning the AEW Heels booth, and so I stopped by to say hi to her both times, but it was nice to talk to her a little bit more in detail in person at this Heels event. And then she arrived a little bit late, but we got to meet Thunder Rosa too, which I was not expecting actually. I did not expect to meet Thunder Rosa. I got to talk with her a little bit, not a whole amount, much, because honestly, I was a little bit nervous too. Like, she is such a cool woman, but a little bit intimidating, and I was a little nervous to talk to her. So of everybody that was there, she was the one I experienced the least, but if I go to any other future Heels events, I'm gonna pluck up my courage and chat with her because I just feel like she would be a very interesting person to have a conversation with, and I wanna take advantage of that the next time. I just loved the Heels event. Thank you to Amanda Huber for putting it on, planning it, putting it together. It was really, really fun, and I just had a great time.
I am here, and we are live at Revolution. Let's go! Woo!
It's Sunday night, and that means we're finally at the pay-per-view, and holy cow, am I already exhausted by this point because of all of the other shows that I've been to, but I'm also incredibly excited because this ultimately I think is going to end up being a really brilliant pay-per-view. So let's talk about 0 Hour very briefly because there were some fun things that happened and they really focused on RJ City, which I loved. I love Hey AEW. I think it's a great show. I think the interviews are always really, really fun. And I think RJ City is just incredibly funny. So the fact that he got a really big focus on here with Renee Paquette, doing a bunch of different interviews with various people like Britt Baker and Orange Cassidy, the best friends, etc. It was really cool to see, and I hope they continue to do a lot more with him in this role because I really like his energy. Now, the 1-0 Hour Dark match that we actually got was, we got Mark Briscoe and the Lucha Brothers versus the varsity athletes, so Tony Nese and Josh Woods and Ari Daivari. Now, obviously, the Lucha Brothers and Briscoe won, but this was an absolutely brilliant way to start the pay-per-view. It got everybody super hyped. Everybody was paying respects to Jay Briscoe, who had unfortunately recently passed, and just wildly over for the Lucha Brothers and Jay Briscoe, or Mark Briscoe. Now, let's actually move into the pay-per-view event because, oh my God, there were so many amazing things that happened here. First, we got a great match between Jericho and Ricky Starks. I want Ricky to do so many things. There are a number of wrestlers right now, including Will Hobbs, Wardlow, Ricky Starks, that I really want to be doing more, and I think they're starting to push that. They really are. Like, Tony Khan is finally starting to push that, but I want to see even more, and so having Ricky just actually defeat Chris Jericho, so good. Excellent, excellent match. Now, on top of that, we got the, I guess it's a final burial match. It was a buried alive match, technically, between Jungle Boy and Christian Cage. This was a match that I admit going into not super thrilled for. I think the Christian Cage Jungle Boy feud has been going on for way too long. I am ready for it to be over. I didn't care that much, but they changed my mind with this match, and I really actually enjoyed it more than I anticipated. Although I do still think it was probably like one of the lower things on the card for me, just because I wasn't super thrilled by it. But the end result, great. I think they did an excellent job. I actually liked the coffin dropping. I thought that was really cool. So I enjoyed it immensely. From there, we move on to the House of Black versus the Elite, which includes the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. Oh boy. It was so good to see the Elite back in action. I've missed them. I got into AEW because of being the Elite and following Kenny, the Bucks, Hangman, and all of them doing their thing with their vlog. So to see them finally return, to start to do more work again, and to have the titles was brilliant. Although I will say I am very happy to see that the House of Black won, because I do love my goth boys. And Julia Hart, oh my god, it took me forever. Julia Hart looked brilliant. I thought her spot in the match was also great. Overall, very, very pleased with the Elite versus the House of Black. Next, we got the women's match, and I was so looking forward to this match. It was probably my second or first most looked forward to match on this show, because I really wanted to see Jamie Hayter with Britt Baker and Saraya with Toni Storm, and then of course my girl Ruby Soho just going at it. And they did, and it was wonderful. And honestly, I thought like it ended up being brilliant. I'm glad Jamie won. As much as I would have been very happy to see Ruby Soho win it, because I do love her. However, I think her heel turn and her joining in with Toni Storm and Saraya is just, it works really, really well. I like that we now have this like evil group of women from formerly WWE working against all of the AEW women, and I hope it brings a lot of really good stuff to the women's wrestling in AEW. And I thought this match was great. Oh my goodness. Also, a lot of kick, and it was good. Now, we are on to the Hangman Mox match, which had so much blood in it. It was brilliant. I was worried for both men, and I actually was not sure if Hangman was gonna win, but I'm so glad he did. And it was just a good match. I really don't have much more to say about it other than I loved it. They're both brutal, and I have been following both men for so long, just continuing to see their story develop. Absolutely loving it. From there, we're going to move on to Wardlow defeating Samoa Joe so that he can then be challenged by Will Hobbs the following week. This is, I think, the match that I was the least thrilled about, honestly. I had almost forgotten it was happening, and I feel a little bad saying that, but I really feel like the ladder match where Hobbs won should have been in its place, and this championship match should have happened at Dynamite. I get why they didn't. I really 100% get why they didn't, but that is just how I feel about it. That would have been how I would have changed up the card. After that, we got some tag team action with the Guns, the Acclaimed, who are just so over in SF. San Fran Scissor. It was so good. We had multiple chants anytime the Acclaimed came out, whether it was on Rampage, Dynamite, or Revolution, because they showed up at all of them. That chant always happened, and it was so good. Not only were, the ass boys, the Guns, and the Acclaimed in this, but it also included Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett, because for some reason, Jeff Jarrett is still wrestling and in these big title events, and I don't understand it, but it seems to be working. So you know what? I'm not gonna question it. And then, and I can't. This match, excellent. What happened at the end of the match with the return of FTR made it that much sweeter. I think this is great. I actually think the Guns retaining is the correct thing to do. I know a lot of people don't like the Guns, and I think they have the correct heel heat, and so I want to see them keep going. I think this is the time for them to be the most heelish heels that they can be, and I think they're doing an excellent job at it. So the fact that they won, brilliant. The fact that they're going to end up fighting and feuding against FTR again, which I expect to have them take the belt off of them finally, also brilliant. Just an excellent match. Okay, we're on to the main event. You guys, this main event was an hour long. Holy cow, and I actually feel like...
This vlog is going to be an hour long.
I'm so sorry, I've just been rambling. It was an hour long, it was amazing, and I absolutely loved it. watch the match. I think it needed commentary because it was just of how long it was, but they nailed it. It was brutal and it was just an excellent pay-per-view. Guys, I could talk about wrestling forever. As the Chaos Cultist said, this is probably already an exceptionally long vlog. Let's go ahead and wrap this up and I'll give you my final thoughts on the whole show, like everything that I went through, because it was just TRLD. It was amazing. All right, that has been it for my intense and very long vlog about my time at several AEW events. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know I rambled a lot, but I just had so much fun and I wanted to describe it all to you guys, and I just hope you had a good time. Before I head out, I do want to give a huge thank you to my patrons for making it so content like this can continue to happen. Without your guys' support, we would not be doing this, so thank you very, very much. In the meantime, I have been Angela, and I hope you have a wonderful hobby night.